Hi guys, and welcome to Magic. My name is Thomas Hansen and I'm one of the magicians over at servergardens.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can become 235 billion times more productive. Let me show you. You see, the average software developer can produce on average between 325 and 750 lines of code per month. Magic can produce 750,000 lines of code per second. I know a lot of people have seen probable permutations of this video previously. However, there's a lot of really interesting new features in Magic I haven't really shown, so I wanted to create another video where I basically CRUDify a HTTP web API backend using Magic, the CRUD menu item here of course, and then of course where I also create a front end. Now, assuming you have a database, and if you don't, by the way, you can click the SQL menu item here and you can load up a script that's called Sakila. I've already executed it here. However, if you don't, you can load Sakila script here and you can simply execute this script. This basically just creates the Sakila database for you in MySQL, assuming you're using MySQL. I already have Sakila, so I can go instantly to CRUD here, at which point I can choose my database. I'm going to choose Sakila. At this point, of course, I can choose individual tables, and yes, it does take care of referential integrity, foreign keys, etc., etc. I can override create, read, update, and delete authorization requirements, a primary URL, secondary URL. I can publish SignalR messages upon write invocation to these specific roles, for instance, or inherit roles from the endpoint invocation, etc., etc. You can also click advanced and turn on logging, public cache, logging on create, update, and delete invocations, etc., etc. However, most importantly is that I can now simply click CRUDify all tables. And ta-da! A couple of seconds later, I have produced 3,325 lines of code. HTTP Web API backend code. So let's look at that code. Okay, go back to your dashboard, click the IDE, open up the modules menu, open up the Sakila menu, and here you can see a whole bunch of files, and each of these files were automatically generated for me by Magic. And one thing which is new as of version 9.8.8 is that now the system actually documents and add comments to explain what the HyperLambda code actually does, which of course makes it much more easy to actually start teaching yourself HyperLambda. And each of these files are basically one HTTP endpoint, wrapping every single table in my database with all 4 CRUD operations. Now I can go instantly to my endpoints and I can start invoking them. If I invoke actor-count, for instance, I can see I have 201 actors here. I can retrieve actors, I can filter here, as you can see, first name equal, okay, F%, add that as a criteria, and as you can see, nobody had a first name starting out, actually that was equal, sorry, first name like F%. And as you can see here, I'm only getting actors whose names starts with F returned to me. And of course I can page and order and, you know, all that good stuff. So then let's go back to the CRUDify menu item, and at this point we can choose SQL. This allows me to create my own custom SQL wrapped inside of an HTTP endpoint, where I can provide authorization requirements for this. This is typically useful if you want to have like statistical charts, etc., etc. And this is SQL code mirror editor, giving me autocomplete on my tables, actor A, where A dot, etc., etc. First name like blah blah F. There we have the same one. I'm not going to create a custom SQL for this particular video because what I wanted to show you is the generation of the front end. Now I can go to my front end tab here. I can choose a name for my module. I choose templates. Now Angular service only creates an HTTP service layer for me, actually allowing me to create my own GUI, but Angular actually creates a fully fledged GUI. And at this point, of course, I can set my deployment, domain settings, and emails, which is required if I want to deploy it to a VPS of my choosing. I can choose arguments such as color. Okay, let's do deep purple. We can do dark if we want to. Now we can choose the modules. Okay, we only have one module, Sakila, and I can click on and off individual components and or choose advanced, at which point I can turn on and off individual HTTP endpoints. as I see fit. Let me just make sure that, let me go back and forth. It sometimes is a little bit tricky, those checkboxes. There is a minor bug in it, unfortunately. So anyways, now what I want to do is to create a front end. And ta-da! 1 second later, Magic produced 15,838 lines of code for me. And this is actually just a Sakila, an Angular project. If I now expand this, I unzip it, expand the source folder, expand the app folder, then I will see I have a components folder here called Sakila, being the name of my module, and one folder for every single table in my system. Here you can see Sakila actor component, etc., etc. And actually, let's have a look at the code just to illustrate its quality. Downloads, Sakila code, and here is the code for this particular Angular project. And as you can see, it's perfectly valid code. It's perfectly valid Angular code. It's very, very high quality too, following most of the best practices that, exists within development of Angular components. Here you can see, for instance, it has a material table, basically wrapping my records from the actor database table. It has a beautiful TypeScript file, beautifully commented, etc., etc. And of course now I could build this if I want to. However, I want to actually, instead of building it locally, I want to show it to you, because you can actually test this out immediately by opening up a new browser window, going to sakila.servergardens.com, and ta-da, here is this particular app. And as you can see, the app is fully working and it's blistering fast. In fact, if we measure it and we do some paging here, you will see that the average response time is roughly 100 milliseconds for paging. I can sort, I can filter. If I want to, I can create new items. Thomas Hansen the second. If I now filter on Thomas, I'll probably find my item here. As you can see, I've created one before. I can delete my items. Whoops, that one was linked in towards another entity. Let's delete this guy instead. And that one was not deleted. Here you can see it even, for instance, film_actor is actually a link table, a many-to-many table, linking actors to films. This was automatically generated for me. If I want to link in Bob with, for instance, the film Affair Prejudice, and ta-da, now Bob is associated with Affair Prejudice, as you can see here. And I can, of course, delete the association if I want to. And of course, the system, one detail, because when you come here, you won't be able to actually access this. Why? Because the system is requires authentication and authorization. However, since I'm a nice guy, I'm going to provide the username for you, which is admin, and the password, which is admin, the same as the username. Of course, this is because I've created a user whose username and password happens to be admin, allowing you to test this out, simply to play around with it as you see fit. And that's how you become 235 billion times more productive. I want to emphasize it's a little bit clickbait, arguably using that header for this particular video. However, I have actually tested the system on a real project where I created a CRM system for purchasing and selling horses. And actually, I started out with this. And when I did the count of lines of code afterwards, then Magic had done automatically 48% of my lines of code, while I only had to manually add 52% code myself to the backend and the front end before I actually had a working production system that the customer was happy with. On the backend parts, Magic did 83% of my job, while in the front end part, Magic only did 44% of the code. And of course, since the code is 100% functioning Angular code, it's very easily modified. And yes, the thing is 100% responsive. If you try it out on your iPhone, it's going to look like this. Let's see, fit the window. This is the way it's going to look like on your iPhone. So anyways, that was it for today. There's a link in the description of this YouTube video to where you can try out Sakila and where you can download Magic. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.